That's a 7-footer no matter.
Absolutely ridiculous. The touch pass in rhythm. Makes me say to the Joker, why so serious?
And so Nikola Jokic with 41 points, but it is not enough for the Nuggets on this night. You take a look and you see he outscored the entire rest of his team in the second half. So much of that coming in the third quarter, and then in the fourth, they didn't have a whole lot of answers. And it was Miami that comes storming back, and they even up these NBA Finals at a game apiece. And so, Stephen A., I feel like we went into this night asking the question, can the Heat find a way to get a win? I think we come out of it asking the question, can the Heat find a way to win the NBA championship this year?
They can find a way. They've shown us the way. If they're hitting shots from threes, they can win. This is what they've done throughout the playoffs. They were the least efficient offensive team in the National Basketball Association for all season long, leading up to the last 10 games or so of the regular season. They ended up averaging 109.5 points per game, which was the least in the NBA. In the playoffs, they became the best and the most efficient offensive team, and it was primarily because they're hitting three-point shots. The three is the key for the Miami Heat. You get role players that are hitting shots from the perimeter, allowing you to spread the floor and put your defense in position to put the opposition on its heels. That's how you win the NBA championship for the Miami Heat.
All right, I'm told we can play some of Mike Malone's comments to his team in his locker room in Denver here. A frustrated Michael Malone, the coach of the Nuggets, after their first home loss of this postseason. Here he was in his locker room.
Our objective now is to find a way to go down to Miami Wednesday night and steal one back and regain home court advantage in these NBA Finals, which is what we're going to do. Because we're going to play harder than them, and we're going to be more disciplined than them.
All right, so that's just a little clip there of Michael Malone. You were saying, Jalen, that you thought there'd be a lot of frustration in that locker room.
Absolutely. And Stephen A. Wright, when Miami's going to be plus 18 from three, that's going to put them in position to win. And late in the game, Jamal Murray, you trust him with the basketball. You trust that he's going to knock down a big shot. But at that point, you call a timeout. And even if Eric Spoelstra gets to adjust, even if they foul you, right, guess who's going to have the ball? The Joker, who's a good free throw shooter. Murray, who's a good free throw shooter. You continue to exhaust the game when you're playing at home. And you've been undefeated on your home floor. And again, like I told you earlier, I don't go by what people say. I go by what they're going to do in that situation again. And I bet if the Nuggets are in that situation again, they're going to call timeout.
I want to go back to the point about Miami and what they have to do. Miami doesn't have much room for error, which they know. I mean, if we know it, they know it. And so, yes, they have to shoot well from three. But you heard Kyle Lowry talking about the whole plan with fours. They have to do all of that. They have to get all of that. I don't think Bam has to score necessarily 20, but Bam's got to play at nearly that level. Even if Jimmy Butler doesn't have a prolific game, the timely plays like Jalen made, the timely plays that Jimmy Butler made late in that game, they have to play with force. They have to hit threes. All those things have to be in effect for the Miami Heat. That's the path for them to really put some pressure and get a second win. If they go up 2-1, they can really put some pressure on them.
But I don't think it's a matter of what they have to do. I think it's a matter of what we can conceive them actually doing. So, yeah, they have to do all of those things, Wilbon. You're absolutely right on point. But the point is, outside of the three-point shot, what is it that you see Miami do and say to yourself, well, we don't know if they can do that again? Everything else they can do again. They can lock down, defend. They can sit up there and spread the basketball. They can create opportunities for themselves. They can be competitive. They can play with force. But can they hit the three? When the answer is yes, they win. When it's not, they don't.
And that's in the Heat film session. But in the Nuggets film session, they're going to be talking about the mental blunders they had, the times they miscommunicated and gave up open threes, the time that they fouled a three-point shooter. KCP fouled out of the game. Michael Porter Jr. didn't contribute when he wasn't scoring. Those two guys have got to be better.
All right, and so we're all even at one game apiece. Your late local news is coming up next on most of these ABC stations. We will see you Wednesday night from Miami for Game 3 of these NBA Finals. It could by as many as 15 in the first half, come all the way back, and they even up the NBA Finals at one game apiece. The first home loss for the Nuggets in this postseason. I'm Mike Greenberg, Jalen Rose, Mike Wilbon, and Stephen A. A. Smith. Stephen A., a thrilling game 2 tonight. What was your number one takeaway?
Well, that Jalen Rose and Mike Wilbon was right. I was wrong, and I couldn't be happier. I mean, this is a beautiful, beautiful thing here. Bam Adebayo showed up. Strus, Gabe Vincent showed up. Duncan Robinson showed up. We talked about Miami needing to shoot the ball well from the perimeter because they were undersized, and they shot 17 for 35, 48.8% from three-point range. That was the difference in this series. Guys stepped up. They hit perimeter shots, preferably from deep. We've got a series.
There was a toughness about this. Stephen A's right. They had to be better in that area, but there was a toughness and a fight about them from the very beginning. They did not come out here and let Denver climb all over them like we can see the Nuggets do. And even though the Nuggets had that great run, what was it, 23-5, and got the lead back and had a huge swing, the Heat kept fighting back. To me, it was as much about personality and just that dogged way that the Miami Heat have to play to keep themselves in a game against a better team. We're not going back on that. I think all four of us believe, everybody believes, that the Denver Nuggets are a better team in terms of talent, size, strength, length, depth. But the Heat played the way they had to play tonight.
So were the Celtics, and they're home watching.
Yeah.
And so that's what this Miami team does.
I hope everybody appreciates these two words, Heat culture. Like right now in their locker room, everybody feels good about their contribution. The coaching staff feels good about changing defenses, playing zone late. They feel good about putting Kevin Love into the starting lineup, who had double-digit rebounds. Felt good about putting Duncan Robinson in to start the fourth quarter, who had multiple threes. And as Wilbon and Stephen A. mentioned, they did not quit. The Nuggets were up 15 at one point in the first quarter. They were up 8 in the third quarter, and yet everybody contributed at some point. And by the way, Bam isn't the MVP level player that the Joker is, but he's a terrific center playmaking. He keeps the floor open. He plays D, knocks down his mid-range shot. He did a great job of not only scoring the ball, but leading.
Eric Spoelstra also showing why he is among the elite coaches in the NBA. If you're with us in our pregame show, we talked about the strategy against Jokic. Do you let him eat, or do you make him distribute? And in this game, Nikola Jokic had 41 points. He had only 4 assists, Stephen A. Clearly, that was the defensive strategy, and to at least some degree, it worked.
Well, in that part, I was right, because I talked about letting him get his points, making sure you cut down on his ability to facilitate opportunities for others. And sure enough, he only had 4 assists in this game. So you're looking at it from that perspective, and you're saying, okay, there's a formula here that could work, because once the game wanes, even though you're going to go to Jokic as often as you possibly can, if he's kicking it out to a Jamal Murray, a Contavious Caldwell-Pope, a Michael Porter Jr., etc., and they're making no shots, it's a killer. It takes you out if you're the opposition and going up against the Denver Nuggets. But if that's not happening because you weren't able to facilitate earlier in the game, then when you need them to make shots late outside of Jamal Murray, everybody else struggled. And that's a big reason why Miami won this game.
Also